Hi fellow ant keepers, and welcome back to the Ant Subang YouTube channel. By keeping this video short and simple, I am bringing my viewers back to my origins. This is my update on my old-timer Camponotus Parius colony. I felt like my OG colonies were being overlooked on this channel, so it's about time I brought them back. I will try to keep you up to speed on how they are, particularly my Camponotus Parius colony. So before I dive into the update, here's a little backstory about them. Many years ago, this would have been the ant colony I could only dream of having. It's hard to believe, over many attempts and countless colonies, they failed to fully mature. This was the species that really helped me officially kickstart my ant-keeping journey. Having them grow into this massive size took a lot of learning experience. I learned from personal experiences and past mistakes to come this far. Back in those days, it was a rarity to find the contents of this species, which no one knew anything about at that time. Yes, there were people keeping them and they knew how, but just having them in various types of nests is not the same as knowing how to develop and nurture them into a healthy, successful colony. In fact, I really wanted them to grow into a massive mature colony capable of producing alates, and I succeeded. It is no fluke or luck that they have come this far, and simply keeping them wouldn't get you here. Before getting their hands on a Camponotus, I always advise people who are new to the ant-keeping hobby to avoid keeping demanding ant genera such as Polyrhacus, Diacamas, Venators, or Trapjaw. Having Camponotus Parius as your first pet ant colony will be the best stepping stone in the ant-keeping endeavor. Only then can you dare dream of having those rarer and elusive ant species by having the basics done right. Believe me, I do not want to use the word beginner species here. As a beginner, the core fundamentals of ant keeping must be singled out and recognized, and this is where you will get them. Camponotus Parius is the most unpretentious species, with no aggressive behavior, and at the same time, they have a beautiful appearance. They are also undemanding in their nest choices. I come across this species in nature quite often, especially if you are in the countries of Southeast Asia. I observed a lot of them in the wild, and the main place for laying their nests is in the soil. I have also found them in rotten logs and tree hollows. Yes, they can even climb trees to build a nest, but only when they find a tree hollow in which moisture accumulates from rain. They are quite demanding of humidity, and it is one of the most important aspects of having them flourish to their current size. You can still have humidity by keeping it in the air-conditioned room, but it is preferable to regulate it with a constant ideal temperature if you must, for accelerated growth. To me, what is remarkable about them is that, at first glance, they look like any blackish medium-sized ant. But if you think that is all there is to it, then you have not seen Camponotus Parius in the sun. In bright light, the Parius is transformed. They have a hidden pattern from the hairs that abundantly cover the body, which will flash with a silverish color. It is the hairs that can refract light and that are the main attractive feature of Camponotus Parius. In addition to this, they are also polymorphic. There are workers with a relatively large head, which are called the majors, and they are almost the size of a female alate. Although they have that bulky stature, they are not capable of causing much pain if bitten, depending on where they bite. If you have a thicker epidermis on your fingers, then it wouldn't cause you any harm. As for the nest and how it is set up, I personally prefer acrylic formicariums just like this one. It should have ample space, have easy access to compartments, and be straightforward to clean. Do keep in mind that such a setup is for a mature-sized colony like this one. As everyone knows my preference, I prefer to be able to watch what my ants do on a daily basis. I do not like nests that will obscure my view, and those would be the soil substrate nests or nest chambers that cannot be viewed from the outside. This is just my personal taste, and also, I can film them whenever I want to, which is how we got this video. However, because Camponotus Parius is not particularly picky about where they live in nature, almost any formicarium will suffice for them to keep indoors. I prefer it bare, just like what you see here. They must be able to hold moisture in their nest, which is very critical to their survival. From what we can see, particularly in this outworld, I placed 2 giant water-filled shaded test tubes for them to hang out in. They treat these tubes as their chilling out room. Believe me, there are more individuals inside the test tube than what you see outside. I used to have more test tubes here, but whenever I do that, there's nobody outside to look at. To show you how many there are in there, let me pour them out and show you. There is a mix of castes in this colony, which includes the male and female alates. At one point, they had so many male alates in the nest that I thought there would be a nuptial flight in the ant room. It could happen if conditions are set right. Well, at least that was my hope. Keeping their setup clean is also one of the important things you should do. With this massive colony, they generate a lot of debris, which they will pile at their designated dump site. The pile of garbage also consists of old, dead workers. I never give them food without putting it on a plate or something. This is just a habit of mine, but in the long run it helps the nest stay clean all the time. The magic tool I use is a plastic scraper. You will definitely need one to get stubborn stains off the floor. The diet of this species should consist of feeder insects and carbohydrates. At first, Camponotus Parius can give the impression of timidity and very cautious ants, but only when they are young. No matter how big my colony is, I still give them a small portion of feeder insects, but at a more frequent feeding time, and I never give them more than they can finish. Also, even at this size, I do not give live insect feeders, but if you want to, it is okay. As individual numbers increase, the aggressiveness will also increase and they can take down any common live insect feeder. Furthermore, there are many majors that could help to subdue the live prey. However, I still prefer my feeders to be pre-killed. Again, carbohydrates are a very important part of the diet, so do not forget to give them a variety of sugar-based foods that also consist of fruits. My acrylic outworld is connected to nesting chambers through a single flexible tube. That is the only entrance to the nest. In the nesting area, there is pretty much no activity here. Since this Camponotus Parius colony has been with me for a long time, they have gotten used to my presence. Their daily activity is basically sleeping every day for long hours. Even when disturbed, they don't care much, and even after prodding them, they will just go back to sleep. They do this, especially after a heavy meal, and when the nest activity dies down, they prefer to hide in the nest and sleep. Almost half of the colony prefers to be in the outer world, walking around and doing their ant business. I am very proud of my Camponotus Parius colony, and I saw every growth cycle they were in. There were undeniably a lot of ups and downs for them, but they still managed to pull through. I learned to tell if the colony is doing well or maybe struggling by their interest in feeding on their food, particularly the proteins. If they are avoiding it, it's a sign there is something wrong. Back to back, it will affect their colony brood counts. If it stops growing and dwindling at a rapid pace, then it's a sign they are having difficulties. So, large piles of new eggs are normally a great sign of a healthy queen and colony. So keep an eye out. I generally don't really do all that much for them other than feeding and cleaning their trash. On the other hand, it doesn't really stress them out, even if I did it frequently. They are very active during the day, so feeding them during the day will be the best time. That is all I have for you about my Camponotus Parius and the approach to raising them. I know there were many questions about how to keep them and what setup was best suited. I hope this video will answer some of the basics of developing your colony to the massive size you want. Thank you for watching the Ants Subang YouTube channel.